This summit is happening at an extraordinary historical moment, as many people have alluded to during the day. The post-Cold War order is collapsing. The very idea of the West is being questioned. The United States' commitment to the defense of Europe, to a sort of unbreakable bond with Europe and other elements of what we call the West is really no longer reliable, let's say. So it's more important than ever that we in Europe better understand Asia, and particularly China. That's why your presence here today, that's why the discussions here today are so essential. It's why this range of ideas and discussion was so useful for me, and I'm sure for everyone else in the room. Now I'm going to go through the things that I wrote down. At times I was checking my phone, and at times I was drifting off because it was so hot, but I've taken notes, and hopefully they resonate with you from what you heard today. So from Rana, we heard that one misconception in China, about China is that we don't take seriously the idea that ideology has a real place in modern China. So it's much more important ideology than we actually assume. He also said that China won't invade Taiwan. So I'm going to hold him to that. We'll probably have a bet over that a bit later. As Kevin mentioned, he had a wonderful phrase, the geostrategic throat clearing of the missile earlier this week. Will Wang talked about if you want to build hardware, you have to go get a Chinese co-founder and put your team in Shenzhen. We heard about how the previous social contract in China is now broken, and that the concept of tanping, lying flat, is becoming more and more mainstream. We heard about how, unlike in the West, online and offline shopping have completely merged in China, which I thought was very interesting. And we heard about how China is like a gymnasium where Western brands have to be in order to keep fit, in order to survive. So a bit of social Darwinism when it comes to Western brands. So we heard that US is still ahead in terms of AI, but only between 3 and 12 months. And China is catching up, and perhaps has an advantage because it can avoid some of the pitfalls of the US. We also then heard from Sol Klein very, I thought, tranchantly, that the US has lost the innovation race already, but it's an amazing time for everyone else who's not an American. And I felt a little sad because then Adam Tooze later said it's a grim time to be an American, that everything is sort of it's a fundamental break. I'm actually American, so I was really a bit sad. Fair enough. We heard about the K-shaped economy in China, but that satisfaction levels with the government are stable, if not very high. We heard about the climate paradox, how China is both a leader in green technology, but also the world's largest carbon emitter. And I wrote down some nice facts. I always like good facts, which I'll use in stories later on. Consumption of shark fin in China has reduced 80% in the last 2 decades, which I didn't know. We also, I think, another very interesting fact that in the last 10 years, GDP in China has doubled while air pollution is down 60%. So there's been a real decoupling between GDP growth and pollution. We heard about new dynamism in Japan. We heard about the rise of feminism in the last couple of years as one of the biggest social changes that are happening in China. And then we, of course, had Jinxing's amazing story. She was genuinely born to shine on the stage, any stage, as she said. We heard, again, I think from Professor Tooze, the Trump administration genuinely doesn't know or care about alliances in Europe or Asia, and we're in an era of malign neglect as well as chaos, which I think we can all kind of appreciate. We heard about the Indian moment, which has arrived, but will take 25 years. We heard about the idea of consequential powers rather than middle powers. We heard that, again, I'm not going to say who it was, but you know who it was. No longer a time for European childishness. I like that. When it comes to industrial policy in particular, and as we've heard now several times, the German economy and the industrial sector, particularly the car sector, is losing 10,000 jobs a month in Germany alone. That, I think, is a real wake-up call. That's something that you hear now in Brussels quite a lot. We've heard about the skepticism towards the American commitment to defend Taiwan, and we heard about how the EU is now the biggest investor in Taiwan. Then we talked about the temporary mutual stability pact between the US and China right now. The biggest question of the day: why is the Minister of Europe addressing the Asia Society? And then we heard from him, why don't let the US and China or others write our story for us here as Europe? The last thing I will end with is what we heard from the very beginning of the day from Jing Qian, the idea that we shouldn't be doves, we shouldn't be hawks, but we should all be owls, and I think that's something I think most of the people in this room can agree with. And now, without further ado, I'm going to hand back to Lionel, who's going to see us out. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamil. It was a terrific, exhaustive wrap-up for this very long day. It was dense. It was hopefully insightful. It was fun at times, entertaining. So thank you. It was a terrific gathering. I would like to thank all the speakers, all the moderators, all the attendees. You guys are, as I mentioned earlier today, you're an incredible brain trust. And we're so proud to have you gathered here in France, in Paris, for the second time around. Je vais remercier le ministre, mais il nous a dû nous quitter. On était honorés de sa présence, so thank you to the French Minister of European Affairs. Terrific to have validation from the French government supporting what we're doing here. Also Kevin, I mean, what shall we say about Kevin? Christy almost stole it from me earlier when she was talking about Kevin's leadership. He returned to Asia Society a few months ago as the president and CEO of Asia Society Worldwide, which is great news. And last night, in a smaller gathering, I was making the joke starting with, Mr. President, thank you for your extraordinary leadership. And that sounded a little Trumpian. So that was my joke, but it worked better last night than today. I don't know, but you guys are tired, obviously. Oh, you haven't been at the White House in a while. Anyway, also I'd like to thank the ambassadors. I'd like to thank our trustees who have been funding all activities here in France. So thank you, global trustees and trustees for Asia Society France. And thank you for some of our distinguished guests. And with that, I will pass it over, I think, to Jing. I will just say one last thing. As we say in French, jamais deux sans trois. And so for the ones who do not understand French fully, it's never a second without a third. So what I'm trying to hint at here is that we'll see you next year. So thank you again, and I'll pass it over to Jim.
Thank you, Leon. We discussed, and I think the co-chair promised a bigger and better room with aircon next year. That's very promising. I'm standing between you and the joke maker, Duncan, so I'll keep it very short. 5 quick thank yous. Number one, I do want to thank the organizers, co-chairs, all the organizers, the whole team. A round of applause for this is wonderful. Second year. Thank you so much. First class. I also want to thank all the speakers, the moderators. This is really a first-class conference. Thank you very much for that. I want to give a special shout-out to all the CCA fellows who have joined us. Kevin has left. Guodong's still here. Qingwan is here. Barclay, Brian is here. And Philippe Lecour, who is also go with Kevin. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you very much for all your research as well. We have left some materials outside. Please pick them up. But on the 4th and 5th point, I want to get serious a little bit. Is that I want to also thank the great continent of Europe and the great city of Paris. To think about that, Europe actually incubated both the current country of PRC. The communism comes from Europe, and Paris played a critical role, right? Think about that. Also, France has incubated the 150 years old United States, right? The civilizational value of the continent and of the city should shine brighter. So to build on what the minister said, the self-strengthening power of Europe and of France, I think should never be underestimated. And applaud to Paris and to the continent of Europe. Really. I've been coming back every summer for the past 10 years, mostly to Greece and increasingly at a stop in Paris. I'm very, very proud of that, and I want to come back more. Last point is to build on what I said in the morning. I want to give applause to all the bridge builders. Josette is here. We add light, we share light but not add heat, is what he taught me. All the bridge builders nowadays, I have to say, is facing increasingly risky endeavor ahead of them. I want to ask all of you, if you can, protect them, cherish them, join them. We have built a lot of bridges today. We need to keep building bridges for the sake of humanity. And I'll thank you all for being bridges, building bridges, and protect those bridges. Thank you very much. Now I turn to Duncan.
Thank you, Jing. Thank you, Lionel. Thank you, Jing. Thank you, everyone. Housekeeping note, do take these amazing things home. Don't leave, oh, now I can't even read my glasses. But do take them home. We don't want to leave rubbish behind. Particularly in Japan, as I mentioned earlier, it's very important how you take care of your rubbish. I want to thank our event partners, Nikkei, Le Grand Continent, the Paris Peace Forum, and the Wire China. Thank you all for your support. As I mentioned, INALCO, thank you, Columbia, Global Paris Center, for hosting us once again. Thank you to our superstar volunteers, and they have names: Robin, Clémence, Solène, Alexandre, Jean. Please come on stage. Yeah. As well as Raya, Wen, Valerie, please join us on stage. And thank you much. A big bow from you. Raya, Valérie, Wen. Allez. And thank you to the Asia Society France team for executing all of our ideas, including the crazy ones, with the calm of seasoned veterans. Thank you.